All right. I'm going to start the slideshow. So I'm really excited about this topic, and thank you to everybody for being here today. Definitely want to welcome your questions if you have them as we go along, because I know we have a short period of time together. But I love this topic because storytelling has always been at the forefront of what I do as a journalist and then as a marketing professional, because the stories we tell really are what bind us to our customers, to the community. It helps us to grow and to really make an impact. But in the past year and a half, we've had a really tough go of it. I mean, this pandemic, I don't know about you, threw me for a loop, something we've never lived through before. And coming out of it, we have a choice to look ahead with a vision, to be optimistic and encouraging in what we do or not. And I believe strongly that when you tell optimistic stories, it is a choice and it's a marketing strategy that helps you to grow. So I'm going to explore a little bit about why that is today. And I encourage all of you to think about how you might be able to put this into action in your businesses. So one of my premises in marketing, we use a formula, which is that storytelling, relationships, and higher purpose are the three things you need to successfully market what you're doing. That story is a foundational narrative that I work with a lot of companies on to sort of come together with the words we want to use, the concepts, the themes, so that everybody is saying the same thing consistently about your organization. And that story, if it has inspiration in it, if it has wisdom, vision, sort of ties to the roots of how you even came to do what you're doing and why you love it, that translates to other people. So if you think about it, a lot of the big brands that are out there now are basically selling hope and optimism. Think about some of the brands that have the bags that they put your merchandise in and they have phrases all over them or concepts or words. And when you look at that, it's all about purpose, about living a great life, about meaning. And so what they're selling is not necessarily clothing or shoes or food, but they're selling an idea. They're selling a lifestyle. And you're buying into it by saying, yes, that's what I want. It's subtle, but pervasive. And we're in an era when we want that higher purpose, that inspiration. And so it can sway us in our purchasing decisions, in our interactions, and certainly in the brands that we support. So think about that as you're weaving your stories for marketing. How do you translate and communicate what you love about what you're doing and what inspires you so that you draw your customers to you? So very quickly, you already heard my bio, but who am I and why do I do what I do? I think the most important thing to share is that I've been really curious about how people find meaning and purpose for most of my life. So a lot of the stories that I wrote as a journalist were just exploring that. You know, why do people do what they do? How do they find meaning? Most of us are pretty ordinary people having extraordinary moments, and what brings us to that? What makes our lives really special? So when I transitioned from journalism into marketing, it was just natural that that would follow me. And so what we look at when we work with customers is, you know, what is that special story? Where are they in a sweet spot where nobody else can do things the way they do them? So while you may not be the only person in your industry, the way you do it is truly unique and special. And when customers come to you, that's what they're looking for. Because let's face it, right? There's lots of competition. Lots of people offer marketing. I'm not the only one, but only I do it the way that I do it. And that's what I help people figure out is how do you do something differently than anybody else because of what you bring to it, because of your passion, because of your purpose. That's where your story begins. So we're going to look at how you can do this in about 3 steps since we have a short period of time. But we're going to look at first step 1, articulating what your purpose is. So sort of what's your why? Why do you show up at the office every day? Why do you do this work? What do you love about it? What inspires you? That's where things start. And that usually, if you're a business owner, is what inspired you to start the business in the first place. Because we could all take a job somewhere, but when you are daring enough to go out on your own and create something, it's because you're driven by passion and purpose. And so that is the first place we go when we're thinking about those optimistic marketing stories. The second step is really looking at what your goals are. So, what are you trying to do beyond just gathering customers, making money? We all want that. But how are you trying to make a difference or an impact in your community, in the world? for your workers, things like that. And then third, how do you tangibly bring that into action? So we'll talk about how you can end up doing all three and leading you to growth very easily because you are focusing on these meaningful stories. So I love this glass half full thing. So is it full? Is it empty? And it's all about perspective. And I was thinking about this when I was preparing for today. I was thinking about how we can look at things as inherently exciting and good and full of opportunity, or inherently challenging. How you view your work, what you do every day, really does impact whether it will grow and who you would draw to you. So think about the energy that you bring into the tasks that you do every day. How can you translate that into your marketing stories? Because that energy, that enthusiasm for the work, that optimism that it matters, that belief that you're really impacting people's lives for the better with what you do, that's really important to draw people to you. I know this sounds hokey pokey, but energy is contagious. And the energy you put out is what you draw back as well. And so if you're sort of pessimistic about it, or you look at things as like glass half empty, those are the types of customers you'll bring to you, and probably it will stunt the growth of the company. When you look at things as possible, it becomes possible. It's self-fulfilling. And so that perspective is really where your story starts, where your marketing lives. Okay, so step one, determining your purpose. So these are things we may already know but have never articulated, and that's why it's important to sit down and actually put pen to paper and answer some questions. So these questions are really great, and the more specific you get, the more detailed you can be, the better your story will be. So question number one is, why does your business exist? And so really looking at, how did you start? What was the origin, the inspiration? Is there a founder that's an important part of the story? Is there an evolution to that? All of those details are really important. Who do you help? So this is another thing with marketing. So a lot of customers will say, well, anybody could be my customer. And that may be true, but it's pretty hard to appeal to everyone. And so the more finely you can focus your audience, the more successful you'll be in reaching them. So we've had, does somebody have a question? No? Okay. We've had a number of niche audiences over the years for my company, just because there were certain industries that we found we had a strength in, and we really got to know what they do. And when we have that specific focus, we've always done better. Even though we have other customers that will come on board who may not fit into that industry, we work now with a lot of schools and universities and educational organizations, but those are not our only clients. But because we know specifically what we do, we can tailor our marketing to that audience, and they feel like, because it's true, we really know what they do, and so there's a win-win there. It's an easy relationship. So think about who you help, think about your ideal audience, and go for that, not worrying about whether you're cutting off another opportunity or limiting who might patronize your business, but really focus your audience so that you can speak directly to them and build an easy relationship. And then the third question I'd ask you is, have you ever written this down or articulated a foundational narrative? So that foundational narrative is sort of the nuts and bolts story that is your go-to, that everybody in the company relies on, so that people are consistent in their storytelling. It's what informs your social media posts, your website content, blogging, anything you do, you're going to go back to those words and concepts. And that's your foundational narrative. So when I create a foundational narrative for a company, it's driven by their purpose and by their mission. And we'll actually even work on the mission statement and the vision statement and taglines, things like that. But then we'll do about 5 to 10 paragraphs of anchor content that is for everybody to pull from and to sort of guide the story of the company. And we'll also do other things like core values or principles, or sometimes a boilerplate as well. But that 5 to 10 paragraph anchor content is the foundation of your marketing stories. If you have not articulated this, now's a great time to do it. We're coming out of a pandemic, we're entering summer. It's really a good time to take a look at that and explore, free write, brainstorm, talk to people in the company, talk to customers, past and present, and figure out what are the common themes that people associate with your business and what you're aspiring to. And writing your narrative right now would be probably the best investment you could do for your marketing. After you do your narrative, I would ask you to work on your goals. And so this may be something you're already doing with active business planning. You might do it yearly, you might do it quarterly. But really articulating what you want to accomplish in very specific terms helps you to get there. So when we first look at, why we're doing what we're doing, what our purpose is, the meaning behind the work, and then we know who we're doing this for and with, and then what we want to achieve. So it gets as easy as, in the next year, we need 100 new customers, and and you describe who that customer is. When you articulate things and you put numbers to it, you actually have a chance of reaching it. And so getting very specific, putting the words out there, and setting those goals is getting you one step closer to making them come true. So if you haven't done this in a very orchestrated way, this is a great exercise, and involve as many people as you can in the process, because when you start to paint that picture, you end up with a roadmap that you can easily follow, and it will take you where you want to go. So oftentimes when I've articulated goals, I usually do it yearly, we reach it way before the year is done because we have such a clear vision and path. And so that's a great thing to do, right? So why not? What do you have to lose? Take an afternoon and put those dream goals out there and then see them happen. So some of the goals that I will work on when I'm doing some planning, and this relates to marketing, because if you're marketing, you need to know what for, right? You need to understand the purpose, what you're hoping to achieve through the marketing. How will I know if I'm successful? Is it more customers? Is it higher revenues? Is it certain services or products that you want to sell? Are you trying to attract talent? When you know that goal and you speak to it, you actually make it happen. So think about, maybe there's some goals that aren't on this list that you want, but once you start articulating it, they end up coming true. Finally, I'd love to hear your stories of how you're making a difference with the work that you do. Now, every company has its mission, its contributions to community. Maybe you're supporting a local team. Maybe you contribute to worthy causes in your community. Maybe you have a program for your employees where they volunteer and you support that, or you contribute on their behalf, or whatever it is. Those stories really articulate the values of your company. A lot of business owners don't feel that they want to capitalize on that, and that's okay. That humility is a wonderful thing, but it is beneficial, and it speaks to who your business is and why it's special and unique. So think about all the ways that your work makes a difference, not just how you are generating revenues and employing people and really like filling a need in the market, but how are you making a difference? How are you making the world better? And I do think those are stories you should tell. So even if you feel nervous about it, even if you don't want to toot your own horn, hand it off to the marketing consultant, or hand it off to your HR director, whoever. Put it in someone else's hands so that you're not saying, look at what I did. But those are really great stories, and they speak to the purpose and the value of what you're about. And so those stories need to weave their way into your marketing stories and into your foundational narrative as well. So after all this, we're talking about optimistic marketing stories, and why do we want to be marketing optimism? Why do we want to be focusing on purpose? Well, anytime you show up and you're visible, you're setting an example. And leadership is not just leading your employees or your company or the industry that you're in, but it's really setting an example for youth in your community, for families. It goes so far beyond what you do. And so how you show up as a company and as a company leader in your words and in your actions really matters. So there's some things that I was thinking about when I was pondering this concept of optimistic stories. And a couple things came to mind that I really want to share with you. So being authentic and being real in your marketing is always preferable to sort of canned professional comments. Some people like to differentiate between the personal and the professional. I think those days are gone. I think that, in the consumer population right now, people want to understand the faces behind a business or brand. And every brand out there, large or small, has a human component to it. The better they get at showing that human face and that heart, the more successful they are and the more far reaching. And some ways that you can do that in your storytelling and in your marketing is by being honest about stumbles along the way. So for example, if you're an entrepreneur who had some false starts or some early failures that led you to success, those are stories to tell. You might think they're not, but it shows how real and human you are. It also gives inspiration to young people and to others who want to follow in your footsteps, and to see that it's not all successes, it's not all, finish line. It is effort and sweat and tears along the way, and you keep going. And you never know who you're going to inspire with that. So whether or not you draw a customer to you with that story, down the road you will, but you may inspire so much bigger impact than you can. The other thing about optimistic stories is that it opens you to possibility, and it sort of sends out a feel-good energy that everybody benefits from. So there's all kinds of research that when you have a positive outlook in general, you have better health, and there's sort of better energy in the workplace, in the family, in the community. And you definitely want to be a purveyor of that. So as you're leading your people, but also your community, your industry, think about how those optimistic stories have sort of ripple effects, like the rock in the water, and it just sort of ripples out and impacts everybody else. So you want to be the one who, by your example, inspires others to send positivity forward, and then that will draw people to you as well. So finally, and I want to open this up to questions as well, I just want to give you guys a little bit of sort of a roadmap for discovering the purpose behind what you do. So I started with purpose, and I made it sound like, of course we know what our higher purpose is, but we don't always. We don't always know why we got into the line of work that we do, or why we started the company, or why we're here today. It's lurking somewhere inside you, and you may not know what it is. It's really important to bring it to the surface. And so sort of pondering what your why is, why you do all of this, what your focus is in your work, is really important. We in America define ourselves by what we do. A lot of times at a cocktail party, that's the first question. What do you do? Not who are you? And so that's a really interesting concept. That's why we've had so much marketing content that feels canned and sort of at arm's length, because it's not human. But what if we could define companies by human values, or how we help people, or how we make lives better? Chances are good that you've seen TV commercials already that do this, that talk about the lifestyle or the outcomes or the happiness from a particular brand, from engaging with that brand. So you offer a service or a product, that is what you do, but really there's a core there of how you make a life better. And that's the story that is going to reveal your purpose to you and is going to draw growth. So again, ask yourself these questions. What's behind the founding? Was it a dream that you could do more, be more, earn more? Was it aspirational, that you really thought you could help people differently than you had been if you started something of your own? So I think that the best investment you can make in your marketing efforts is to discover that purpose behind your work, and then weave a story that you feel really good about, that is inspiring to you, so it's inspiring to others, and that way you connect and build an authentic relationship with your customers on this basis of purpose and meaning and inspiration, and it just sort of grows and develops from there. So that should be number one marketing activity for you, if you haven't already learned that in this presentation, but that's really where the heart of your growth is. So that's what I have for you guys for today. I know it was really quick, but we have such a short time. I would love to open it up to questions, just in general about what we're talking about, or about marketing. If you have like, hey, I've been wondering this about marketing, now's your time. I am here at your disposal to answer your questions. Throw them at me and let's see what we can do. Anybody? Social media, pitching media, blogging, website questions.
So Heidi is wondering, how can we buy your books?
How can you buy my books? So you can go to lynnegolodner.com. I'll put it in the chat, because my name is hard to remember, and all the books are there. Some of them are on Amazon as well, and you can always email me. My email is on the screen in front of you, and I have some copies of some of the books that I can send your way as well. And I'm happy to send early chapters of the What's Your Why book as well. There's a lot of great marketing information. And so while we're in the process for that, I do have some of that I could package and send over.
Awesome.
And
Any other
Lynn, where are
questions?
you located?
I'm in Huntington Woods, Michigan, by the Detroit Zoo.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. So any other marketing questions? Anything you've always wanted
So
to know?
Lynn, how do small businesses like a lot of us on the call work with you?
Yeah, I work with clients in a lot of ways. My favorite ways to work with clients are to work with them on their foundational narrative and then to build their marketing strategy and then to coach them to implement it. However, I do have clients for whom we'll implement the marketing. So we'll do the social media, we'll get them on TV, we'll write blogs for them, do their website, all that kind of stuff. But I really, really love, especially with small businesses, empowering the people within the company to do these things on their own and make it easy. And I find it's much more affordable. And so it's a win-win. Everybody feels happy with that because you're gaining those skills and we make it easy and you don't break the bank by asking for marketing help. So that's my favorite way to work with people because I just see the success.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Lynn, I've got a question. So you touched on this a little bit, but can you give us an example? Maybe if it was a customer in Michigan that you've worked with that we would know, or maybe even a nationally known company that has done this quite effectively that would, we would know the name and we would know the message.
So when you say this, you mean like a foundational narrative?
A foundational narrative or a great story that we all might be familiar with that could inspire.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of big brands that have done this. And so if you think about Nike, so Nike, everybody knows, Just Do It has been around for decades. But if you look a little bit deeper at their story, their mission is about helping athletes. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but it's very quick and tight. I can send this to you if you want to email me. And it's about how their mission is to help athletes something succeed. And they're defining athlete as anybody who has a body. And so what they're saying with Just Do It is, just try something, just take a chance. You are capable. You can, step foot in this world. And it shows successful people exhilarated, being active and feeling great about it. And so that phrase, just do it, comes from this concept of wanting to help everybody feel like they're capable of moving their body and being athletic. And of course, they're selling athletic gear. They're selling shoes and clothes and whatever, but they're selling a concept. And I remember when Just Do It first came out, and all the ads in magazines and TV, and it was just sort of riveting. You would see people, of course, they had perfect bodies, and we don't all, but it was outdoors, it was active, it was, oh, that looks like a great place to be. I'd like to be that person too. And if you dig deep and you look at their story, they believe that every single person has access to this concept. That's really empowering. And so it's something that I would want to gravitate toward. Another brand to think about when I mentioned like the bags with all the messages on it, a lot of brands have done this. I think that, which coffee shop was it? There used to be, I don't remember which one, but maybe it was the Coffee Beanery, but they had all kinds of messages on the doors. I don't know if they still do, but this was years ago. And it was inspiring like that. But Lululemon, which is a controversial brand, but they, on their bags, there's all kinds of messaging. And they're bags that you reuse. And so like my teenagers would use them to carry their stuff to school in or their lunch or whatever. But those messages are subtle and they sort of permeate your sensibility. And they're telling you, you can do this, you got this, and it makes you feel good. So you want to patronize that brand. So those are some big brand examples. There are many more, and I could certainly send you some of those if you want. I have a whole worksheet on mission and vision that shows examples of national brands that have excellent missions and visions, and they'd probably surprise you. So just email me and I'll be happy to send it to you.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I saw a comment in a direct message from somebody who attended this who said, effective marketing is so difficult to nail down, especially with the rapid pace of the digital environment. So I just want to address that really quickly if we have a minute left. But,
yeah.
it's funny. I've been doing this now for 14 years, and back then, I remember clients would come to me and say, if you can just get me on Facebook, it'll grow my business. And I was like, well, I can get you on Facebook, but don't put all your cards in that, because social media is a rabbit hole, and you can get lost in it, and it's really hard to keep up with it, but it's not going to grow your business overnight. Same thing for getting on TV. It's very cool and sexy to see your business on TV, but you'll see a little blip and then everyone forgets about you. And so the thing to remember is that marketing is a slow build, it's gradual, and it needs consistency. Nothing is overnight. And so, social media, yeah, it's really hard to keep up with that. So why keep up with it? Pick 1 or 2 platforms, post once or twice a week in a really meaningful way, give yourself room to breathe, and work on your other marketing channels too. Because, yes, it's quick hit, it's turning over a lot, but that's not where your customers are going to be buying from you. They're really not. They just want to see you show up in a lot of places to validate their decision to engage with you. And the marketing research shows that you need an average of 7 touches of a brand before you take action. So that means that your customers need to see you or hear about you at least 7 times, maybe more, maybe a few less, before they decide to engage. And what is the marketing touch that is most likely to prompt them to engage with you? A personal recommendation. When somebody, word of mouth, makes a referral and says, you've got to check out this company, you definitely have to patronize them, because that is something that you can trust. It's somebody and you can rely on, and it validates your community and who you surround yourself with. So that would tell me that the best investment for marketing is to keep your customers happy, to keep engaging that relationship, and to strategically create ambassadors out of your customers who will spread the word for you. And I do help my clients do that, because it's just the best bang for your buck. That's the most authentic way.
Mm-hmm. Great advice. Well, we are at the end of our session, and I just want to we do have a door prize that we're giving away to the attendees who joined this afternoon. So our winner for this session is Park Kurzman. Park Kurzman, you can expect to hear from our membership team with the prize that you're receiving. And I just really want to thank you, Lynne. Great information, so thought-provoking, very timely with us coming out of this pandemic, and we're able to have some personal interaction once again with each other. So thank you so much, and please visit her website. And if you have any questions, you can always reach me at sbam.org. Thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Lynne.